Hello everyone, this is Sarah from Crafting and Relaxing, and today I'm just assembling some random UFOs that I have on my desk. That's unfinished objects, things I started, set aside. Sometimes you make things and you either don't know what to do with them, or you made three and you only needed two, or maybe you're just not in love with them and you can't figure out what they go with. So here I have a happy that was cut out with a Silhouette Cameo machine, which is like a Cricut, and just on some basic white cardstock. And I'm putting art glitter glue on the back of it. You could use a glue pen or whatever you have. And I'm going to put it on top of a piece of paper, just white cardstock that I have done some Distress Oxide ink treatment on, and then laid a wet stencil on. I have a couple videos on Distress Oxide inks if you'd like to go see some of those. So I'm gluing that down, and this envelope's fairly small. It's another random item that's sitting around that I wanted to use up. So I'm making the card a smaller card to fit with that envelope. Just trying to clean some odd size things out. My camera is a little close, I'm sorry for that, so I'm getting out of the frame a little. So this piece of paper is only 7 inches long because the card's going to be so small, so I'm going to score it at 3.5 inches, and this will become my card base to put my little happy card on and use up my envelope and my happy and my Distress Oxide ink paper that were sitting around. And I'm showing you how I keep my cards square and use the corner of the scoreboard to fold them, and then use the tool. And you'll see that several times in this video, because in this video I made my card bases as I went. Not that you need a scoreboard, but if you get one, then this is a good way to use it. And I'm using the Herma Dotto, which I may have mentioned in a previous video was discontinued. So I'm just trying to use it up. And then I do have a new tape runner that I showed in a previous video that I've purchased and I do like. I just thought, well, now I have 2 tape runners sitting on my desk, so I might as well use this one up. So I've glued that down, and then I'm going to use this sun that I have sitting around. It's gold embossed, and then I've colored it in with the Nuvo alcohol markers that I purchased. I'll show those in just a minute. And right now I'm putting foam mount all over the back of it. And I wanted it behind the rays also, so I'm cutting some little tiny ones so that they wouldn't bend down and be floppy if I decided to let this sit around for a while or mail it. I mail a lot of things that the Postal Service probably doesn't love, but I have pretty good luck with it. So every once in a while I have a friend send me a picture of a card once it gets to their house, just so I can see how it looks when it gets there. So then I'm taking the little papers off the back of the foam mount, and for this you could use any that you have. You could use longer strips and cut them. If yours is thinner than you like, you can always use 2 layers of foam mount. And then I'm just putting that sun on the front of the happy card. And there's my cute little card that was made with stuff I had sitting around. And there are the Nuvo alcohol markers that I mentioned that I used to color in that sun with, just so you can see. And this stamp, you won't be able to get this stamp. This was a personal stamp exchange stamp from many years ago, and I don't think they're around at all. But there are many gorgeous stamps on the market today, so you'll be fine. I'm coloring this in with those same Nuvo markers. And over the years, I've done this rose in red many times, but I'm not sure I've done it in orange. And I really like how this is looking. So I'm just having some fun coloring it in with my markers, and I did a video on these before, so you've probably seen them, but just in case, they come in sets of 3. So I have 3 orange to blend together and 3 greens to blend together. I still don't have those blues, but they're on my list. I'm sure you saw that I've been trying other markers, but I will tell you, I still really like these. these probably are my favorite, and they're in line with my skill level. I'm not the best at blending or coloring. And with this paper, I went a little bit out of the lines, even with embossing, but I still liked it and it was fun. So the paper that I'm pairing this with is a gold metallic. If you have metallic papers that match your embossing powders, that is a really nice, easy way to put together an impressive card and an elegant card really easily, because all you're doing is cutting another layer of paper, but it really enhances the embossing on it. And if you're not familiar with embossing or heat embossing, I also have a video on that. I'm sorry, but when I do these random assembly videos, I bring in a lot of new concepts at once. So you can see how that's coming together, and I'm just going to trim it a little bit on the right because it looks too wide to me, and you'll notice I didn't really stop to measure it. I just went, yep, that looks pretty good. And that gold scrap happens to be a piece that I had sitting around. I don't have many left. So here I'm using one of the Spectrum Noir markers that I had a video on before, because the gold was too close to the orange, and so these Spectrum Noir brights just gave me a little more contrast on the rose that I was looking for, and since I seem to have a ridiculous amount of markers now, I might as well use them. So I'm just going to put the adhesive on it and layer this up. I have a tendency to make cards typically with at least 3 layers. I like layers and how they look, and I'm not the most amazing at coloring, so I like layering. There we go. So you can see how gorgeous that is, and I'll show you in more detail at the very end. So here, the advantage to having my camera so close is that I can show you how I cut. So this is a Marshmallow Basil cardstock. It's super thick, and they put a strip on the end, even on an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. So I cut that off. Then I'm cutting it at 5.5 because I'm making a standard size A2 card. And then I'm going to take that strip of 5.5 by 8.5 and score it at 4.25. And if this is all too much information because you haven't done this before, don't worry, I'm going to have some more detailed information on this in other videos, and I'm probably going to do a blog post pretty soon that's like very intro level. So here you can see this marshmallow cardstock, this basil paper. This version is super thick, so I'm squaring it up in the corner, scoring it really well, and then it's all set. This would have been a good card to do a top fold on, and I would have had to cut the paper a little bit different, but I just didn't think about it. I usually do the kind that open at the 5.5 side. This one is a stencil that I did with Distress Oxide inks, and then I stamped the sentiment with the matching Distress Oxide inks. I like how this turned out, but I used a really weird color paper to do the project on, and then it didn't go with anything. So finally I decided I would just put it on a basic white card base, and it's cute. It'll work. Be sure you don't overthink your projects or throw things away that are perfectly good. One of my friends says she's always testing her cards, and I tell her, no one's going to call you and say this card should have been a test or a reject and not mailed to me. So here I'm cutting the strip off the end of this 12 by 12 cardstock and then showing it to you. It has a pattern and a sentiment on it. When you cut the strips like that off of patterned paper or there's a sentiment, be sure you set those aside. Even the marshmallow one, I could have saved that too. I'll probably do a video at some point, but you can use those scraps to make gorgeous cards. So here, when I bought this sheet of sentiments, I didn't realize it's kind of an odd blue. It's blue-gray, and this dark piece of paper that I had done the Distress Oxide and stencil technique on is odd colors, so they actually are pairing pretty well together. The stencil technique, I was trying Distress Oxides and then a stencil with water on dark paper. I hadn't done that before, and so I wanted to see how it looked. And I like how it turned out, but honestly, I like the other one with the happy card better, and it's essentially the same concept. Here I found a piece of gray that I like with it, and so I'll cut my card base out of the gray. So same idea, it's a 12 by 12 piece of paper, and I'm going to cut a 5.5-inch strip, which would simulate half of a piece of an 8.5 by 11. And then I'm going to turn it and cut it 8.5 inches long. So then I have essentially my perfect card base. And again, I have to score it. And because I've been using the Marshmallow Basil cardstock and it's so thick, I've gotten in the habit of scoring 3 times, which might be a little excessive for some cardstocks. And I'm putting it in the corner so I get that nice square edge and scoring it. You can buy pre-made card bases too. You don't have to do this, but I have the paper, so I use them up. Then when I looked at this, it was a little plain, and I thought, okay, it needs a little something. So I thought about it, and I had white paint. I'm just showing you it is the cheapest. And I'm going to use my Distress Oxide foam blender pads, whatever we call those, with paint. So that's another example of something else you can use them for. They're washable, don't forget, so it's not like I'm ruining it. I'm going to go wash it right after this. So when you use paint, you want to use half as much paint as you think you need. You notice I only put a drop out, and then I spread it out on my glass mat, and then I used a little more. The point is you want to get just enough so that you're not working so hard you're ripping up your stencil. But if you get too much, you won't get that aged distress look at all. You'll just get solid white and maybe even a goopy look. So use much, much less than you think you need, and you'll probably be happy. Because remember, you can add to it, but you can't take it off. I even tried patting it with a Kleenex on this project, and it just dries too fast. It didn't work, but it's fine. So you can see in some areas it's very white, and in others it's nice and faded and gray. And then I'm just cleaning that up because I'm messy and I'll get it on my project. And I do need a little bit more so that I can go all the way around the edge. Remember, I'm going to cover up the middle with a sentiment, so I don't have to do the middle. I'm just lining the stencil up again. And in this case, I wasn't too concerned, so I didn't dry it with my heat tool. But if I was doing a super fancy pattern, or I wasn't going for kind of a distressy mess look, you would want to dry it before you worked on the other side, just to be sure that you didn't mess up your previous work. Okay, then I need a little more. It's a thin line. Okay, right now, that's too much paint. Too much. I got in a hurry. I should have kept daubing it off, but that's okay. And sorry, you can't see right now, but you're going to see when I take this thing off that it's a little bit thick. So now I'm going to dry it just so I can get stuff to glue to it. And you can see what a difference that makes. Now it has the same pattern on both and the reverse of it, and it makes the sentiment on the front pop a little more. So just more fun. When you buy paints or inks or that sort of thing, keep in mind that, or glitter, or the fancy new pens that sprit glitter, all kinds of stuff. Keep in mind you don't need every color, but whites and gray or gold, you'll use them over and over and over. So I don't buy every color of embossing powder, and I don't buy all the inks, but I do need to have white and gold and silver of just about everything. I have the Sharpie paint pens in gold and silver, and I have gold and silver pens, and I have white pens. Okay, so there's the 4 cards that I assembled. I didn't put any fancy embellishments, didn't do anything with my pens. I just put them together so you could see, and got a few things off my desk. Thanks so much for watching, and be sure and subscribe to Crafting and Relaxing, and take time to craft and relax. Thanks.